Hello everybody. We're here in Module 7, Collections, in the activity called Defining Library Users and Needs. And you've found the Padlet tutorial. You're watching it now. So this is just a real quick overview of how to use Padlet for this activity. So the first thing you're going to do is very carefully read the activity and get a general idea of what we're going to do here. As it says, this is a brainstorming activity. And the Padlet is just here to help us facilitate that so that we can all use one space and bounce ideas off of each other. So the first thing you'll do is click the link to the Padlet activity, and then this is the window that should open up for you. It might look a little bit different if you're not the first person to get on here. So this is just generally what it's going to look like. So you're going to want to come up with at least 2 unique user groups for any of these libraries that you see up at the top here in purple. So public, academic, school libraries. If you have another type of library that you're interested in, feel free to add that. That's no problem. But you're going to want to think of and define at least 2, say 2 to 4 unique user groups. Don't go crazy because you want to let your fellow classmates have some room to add some things as well. So don't put 10 up there. 2 to 4 seems good to me. So that's the first thing you'll do in this activity. And let me show you how very easy it is to add that. So you can either use this add post, the plus button that's right down here, or even easier, you can double click anywhere in the yellow spot of the Padlet. And as you can see, this little box comes up, and from here you can type in your user group. So let's say I want to say faculty are a user group in academic libraries. And then I go ahead and put my initials there. The Padlet has the ability to add things like uploading files and links and pictures. You don't have to do any of that, but you should be aware that that exists. And so there I have my first user group. And then let's say over here I'm going to put high school students. Now I would encourage you to be more specific than that. I don't want to give you too many examples because I want you to have a lot of room to think this through and put your own user groups on here. But I would be more specific than, say, faculty or high school students. You might want to, like, for instance, in faculty, there's like full-time faculty and there are adjunct faculty. I could use both of those user groups as their own unique user groups. While they have some things in common, they will also have some needs that are unique to them. So that's what we're trying to think of. Think of groups of people who would use any of these kinds of libraries and what those, because the second step is to think about what their unique needs might be. So if I were to say over here high school students, and you can move these around any way you want, right under here under comments, this is how I'm going to put my user needs down. So I've got my group, and here I think, well, high school students need reference works in print. They probably also need, oh, I didn't save it. Shoot. Okay. Reference books, I'll say, in print. And I hit enter there. There we go. And I can close that. And then I might also, I'll add another one and say reference works in electronic format. Okay, those seem completely reasonable user needs that the library could fill. This is the general outline of what I want you to do. I want you to define at least 2, as many as 4 unique user groups for any of these types of libraries. Again, be specific. So you might want to say students who have English as a second language. You might say unemployed adults. I don't want to go, again, I don't want to give too many examples because I want you to be able to come up with your own things. You're going to define these groups. Another thing that you should do is try to connect them. So right here you can connect to a post. I would connect high school students to school libraries and as well to public libraries. Connect to a post, connect to public libraries. Faculty, of course, could go with academic libraries. Mostly. You could make an argument for other ones, but these make the most sense to me. So high school students at a school library might need something different than they would need at a public library, maybe. And these are things that you should consider as you're doing, as you're creating your user groups and then defining their needs. So you will create a new post for each of your user groups. Then, and you can delete if you want to using that trash can there. Please don't delete anything that you didn't put up on the board. So you're going to create your user group. Once you have your user group created, you can then come under any user group, whether you created it or not. So you can define needs for user groups other people have put on the board. I'd like this to be as as much like a discussion back and forth as we can get it to be. So any user group that you would like to define a need for, you can come down here in the comments, add your comments there. Now, as far as the defining the needs, you'll want to define at least 4 user needs. And that means anywhere on the board. So you can take 4 different users and define 1 need for each, or you could do 2 different users and define 2 for each, or 1 for one and 3 for another. Just make sure you have added yourself 2 user groups and 4 user needs somewhere on the board. This might get pretty crowded, but that's okay. It should be a lot of fun. And then please connect your user group to a particular type of library, or if it makes sense, to more than one library. The activity, this is the first part of the activity. And then once everyone's done that part, you will want to come back in here and create a Word document for me that you will upload to the course in my WDT. And that Word document will need to have 3 user groups and 1 user need for each group that you find interesting and that you might want to do more research on. The other thing I wanted to say is users have a lot of different kinds of needs when it comes to libraries. Because the module we're in is focusing on collections, I would ask you to mostly focus your needs definitions on collections. So talk about what kind of books they would need, what kind of reference materials, what kind of, do they need newspapers, do they need video, do they need audio, and of course what each group needs is going to depend on the group. So that is the idea. We're focusing on collections. If you can think of other things that a library could provide, terrific. But mostly I want you to focus on collections. Since you've just read 3 chapters in the book about collections, we'll be doing our discussions about collections. So let's keep the focus there. As always, if you have any questions about using the Padlet, about the activity, about any of that, please do email me as soon as possible, and I will get you an answer. Thanks so much.